we're back to Atlanta for me, Joe.
Oh no.
I'm not taking them. I want to fade them here, but but now it's the opposite end of this. Okay. So they're 3.5-point favorites versus the Chicago Bulls tomorrow at home, which, okay. Alex Caruso's questionable. Zach LaVine's out, obviously. Kobe White's probable. Patrick Williams is out. For the Hawks, Clint Capella's out, which means more Okongwu minutes, which is good for them. And that's the only thing that's really relevant on the injury report. So, as such, the Knicks or the Bulls injury report isn't bad enough for me to really get clear of this. Like, I have this projected as a pick'em because that's what this feels like, is a pick'em. And the reason it feels like a pick'em is that the Hawks have been so goddamn awful at home. I can't give them home court advantage. Like, I have no way to give them. I'm giving them currently a half point of value for being at home because they've been so terrible. In case you're just joining us, the Hawks are the worst ATS team in history. Now, here's what's funny. I famously bet the Hawks last Monday versus the Clippers. Okay. The only game that they have not covered, the only game, Joe, that they have not covered since January 30th is the one time I bet them, the January 30th game versus the Clippers. So
just
fuck you,
and they should have covered. They should have covered that game too. Like they should have covered. They had it. They had it.
So now they've covered 6 of 7, and a lot of these have been at home, so they're starting to play better. They're the worst ATS team in history that's playing better right now. So what do I do here?
Look, they're stuck with what they got, right? Like when you look at everybody, we all thought they were going to make a trade. I think, I was surprised they didn't make a trade. I think a lot of people were surprised they didn't make a trade. They didn't make a trade. They're in the play-in. Like they're not necessarily a bad team. I think they're a bad team, but they're not necessarily a bad team. It's an important game against Chicago too. Like for seeding purposes, playoff purposes, what have you. They're just one of those teams that like I struggle to cap them. I struggle to figure out if they're good. I do think that given the circumstances, I get where you're coming from, but I really struggle to get there. They're better than them in adjusted net rating. They have one of the best offenses in the league. Chicago doesn't have that. So I think if you want to back this, I think you're looking at like a higher scoring game, maybe where Atlanta kind of can get something going. And that's kind of what you're looking at. So maybe I would look at maybe like an Atlanta team total, but then the Bulls play so slow. So it's definitely a tough spot.
I don't want to try and predict how they're going to play.
No, I can't get there. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. So here's a good, a fascinating turn of this. So it opened 4, and there's a 3.5 in the market, and yet we're tracking 86% of the bets and 87% of the money on Atlanta. Now, all that really indicates is that there's only been maybe one significant bet in our system that's been logged on the Hawks, which is what moved it back to 3.5. Right. Yeah. So it's like one random bettor or group bet it, and that moved it back to 3.5 at one book. It's for a lot of the places.
Well, yeah.
But it's interesting. But I will say, as much as it's like, oh, a sharp group, like, this is one of the things is like, do you want to bet into a sharp group early in the night on like after everyone watched the Super Bowl? Like,
probably not. Like probably not.
I'm going to stay away. That's the responsible thing to do, is to stay away. I want it noted that I have a lean on the Bulls, but I'm also want it noted that I'm staying away because Atlanta is one of the hottest ATS teams, but also one of the worst ATS teams ever.